Good afternoon, everyone, and Happy New Year. Happy 2023. This is Bookish Road Trip, author Take the Wheel. It's the live interview on Facebook. And my name is Hope Gibbs. I am a new tour guide here at Bookish Road Trip. I took over author Take the Wheel back in December, and I have been busy lining up lots of new authors, different authors, and from lots of different books from different genres. So today I am thrilled to introduce to you our January author Take the Wheel, Karen E Osborne. Hello, Karen.
Hi, how are you? And how are all of you out there?
Thank you so much for joining us. I have so enjoyed your post this week that you took over our Facebook page.
That has been so fun, really. We were talking as you and I were chatting earlier. The first one of Guess Where I Am. I have so many more pictures like that. I might throw some up tomorrow.
I would
Guess
love
where
that.
I am. Maybe
Yeah.
I'll give a prize to the person who guesses all four the first time.
Well, I actually got one, so I was very proud of myself. But I think you should do that. So. Well, before we get started and we start talking about your fabulous book, Reckonings, I'm just going to read over your bio, impressive bio that it is, just so our audience can get to know you a little bit better. Okay. So, Karen E. Osborne is an award winning and Amazon Kindle best-selling author of 3 women's fiction suspense novels. Her fourth is coming out in September of 2023. Karen's author life is followed by a 40-year career, first as an academic administrator and then co-owner of the Osborne Group, traveling the world as a consultant, trainer, and motivational speaker. For 7 years, Karen served as a faculty member at Johns Hopkins University Graduate Certificate Program in Nonprofit Management. She now spends her time volunteering, serving, and writing. Karen is a member of the Women's Fiction Writers Association and the Women's National Book Association. She's a native New Yorker but lives in Florida with her husband, Robert. She has 2 grown children and 3 grandsons. Thank you, Karen, so much for being here. And before we get started, if anyone has comments, we would love comments or questions. Just feel free to post those, but we don't get to usually see who's posting. So if you could just include your name at the end, that would be helpful. So Karen, let's get started. Let's talk about Reckonings. So for those who have maybe not yet had a chance to read your book, could you give us a synopsis?
So, Reckonings is a story. All of my books kind of focus on the themes of secrets and lies and forgiveness and redemption, and Reckonings has also kind of a Me Too component to it and a justice component. And Hope, you wrote such a lovely review, and the words that you said at the end was that Roxy is trying to find her voice again.
Yes.
Yes. And so I love that. And a lot of the women I write about are trying to correct mistakes and find their voice. So Roxy is 36 years old. She has a job that she doesn't like. She has a husband she loves who has a job he doesn't like. They have 4 children, and the oldest is 17 and pregnant. So if you do the math, she's 36. Roxy was 17 and pregnant. And they have 2 rescue dogs, and the children range in age from 5 to 17, and they live in a crowded apartment, with just 2 bedrooms, and their son is sleeping in the living room. So you could see that this is a packed life, but it's not what she wants. And she has written a play, and with no real reason, she has decided that her play, which is being staged by the local community theater, is going to save their lives. It's going to make everything okay. So the story takes place 2 weeks in August. All my books are 2 weeks, 2-week time frames. Mm-hmm. So 2 weeks in August, the play is going to be put on. Her dear friend, childhood friend, is is going to come and star in it. And then her nemesis comes back to town. And so it's kind of what happens. And from the moment she sees Spider, the bad guy, back in town, all the way to the time of the play being put on, and lots of poor Roxy.
Yeah. Roxy, I absolutely fell in love with Roxy, your protagonist in this story. And mainly because she wasn't one dimensional. I mean, you want a likable protagonist, but there were times that you were, heartbroken for her, you loved her, and then sometimes you were infuriated. You just wanted to see her. So tell me, how did she come to life? How did she come to you as a writer?
All of my books tend to start with a woman speaking to me in my head.
Oh, okay.
Everyone, there's somebody that's talking to me, and I start having conversations with her, and so Roxy came to me. She wanted her story told, and I like writing flawed women, because who are we if we're not flawed women? We struggle and we have wonderful characteristics. I wanted everybody to like her, but she too, I was listening to it, it's an audiobook as well. So it's hardcover, softcover, and ebook and audio. And so I was listening to the audio and I started like, Roxy, get a grip.
Yeah. I found her so compelling as well, because she's a wife and a mother. She adores her family.
She does.
And she wants her play to be a success, to, get them a home of their own and whatnot. But she still had that desire, that need for something for herself.
Yeah. And she didn't even recognize it at first. At first it was all about, if I could just get out of this crowded apartment and buy a little house. And if the play just made just enough money when it got to off-Broadway. If it got to off-Broadway, I mean, people win the lottery. If it got to off-Broadway, then she might have just enough money to buy a house. But then as it gets closer, she realizes how much she also wants this play to succeed for Roxy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I
was just going to say, as writers, you and I both understand that totally.
Absolutely. And I was going to ask, is there a little bit of Roxy? I mean, is there a little bit of you and Roxy?
Yes. I think in all books, you find yourself in them. Reckonings was actually my second book that I wrote, but it was the third that came out. And so each one, the first one had a lot more of me. And then Roxy had some of me. And by the time I got to Tangled Lies, even though they came out differently, I wrote them different. That's the order I wrote them. So Tangled Lies is the least like me.
The least. And
Yeah.
you have another book coming out too. We're going to talk about that a little bit later.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the dynamic between Roxy and her daughter, Jewel. I mean, it is a complicated relationship. If anyone who is a mother who has mothered teenagers, especially teenage daughters, it's complicated already. But there's a twist here with Jewel.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things with Jewel. Number one, Roxy relies on Jewel to take care of the household, because she is working flat out every day. And then she's at the theater every night. And so and her husband is working flat out. And so much rests on this 17-year-old pregnant daughter. And then it's also complicated because Roxy's mother walked out on her when Roxy was 12. And it's also complicated because Roxy was pregnant at the same age that Jewel is, and Jewel won't tell them who the father is.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really got a lot. And Roxy doesn't always realize how much Jewel is doing for her.
Yes.
She doesn't. One of the infuriating things about Roxy even though we love her,
Love her.
is that she doesn't always see things the way others see it. Her children say to her a couple of times, mostly Jewel, everything isn't always about you, Mom. Everything is not always about you. And she stops for a minute, like, is that how I behave? You know, that everything's, but yeah, that's how you behave.
Well, talking about someone who is my favorite character in the book who helps Roxy see things straight is Dallas. She
Yeah.
is the best friend that every single woman in this world needs because she's loyal, she'll listen, she's empathetic, but she also, without being too harsh, she tells Roxy when she's wrong.
Yeah. Don't we all need a girlfriend like that?
We
Best
do.
friend like that. And I am blessed to have a best friend like that. So there's quite a bit of my dear friend Maxine in Dallas, and Maxine just loves that. She goes, Roxy, I mean, Dallas is me. I said, no, she's not you. She's not you. But yes, there's an awful lot of that. Dallas is street smart.
Mm-hmm.
She's savvy. She sees things and she picks her way. I mean, she tries to not just dump on her friend. She tries so hard to speak truth when truth needs to happen, but to do it carefully. And Roxy doesn't listen all the time, you know.
But that makes for a better story.
It does, because if Roxy would just listen to Dallas, then there wouldn't be a story, but Roxy would be better off.
So, because you, as you said earlier, your book touches on a lot of hot topics, especially in today's society. Did you have any difficulty writing any chapter, or did it just kind of flow? Did it come to you?
When I started with my first book, Getting It Right, I cried a lot when I was writing it because it was touching on traumas that I experienced. And so it was a painful start. When I got to Reckonings, I was healthier, just emotionally healthier. And so I think I handled Roxy's trauma. I didn't weep the whole time. I would still feel emotion. When there'd be certain chapters that I would, when I finished, but it was easier. And then interestingly, beta readers are so amazing. Beta readers, thank you for beta readers. And so people caught things
Mm-hmm.
that I was honing too close to my own story. And they pointed out, though, that let's try this, though, because this didn't ring true for me. And I realized that I stopped telling Roxy's story and I started telling mine.
Yes.
And so I went back to let's stick with who Roxy is and how she would behave. And so it was, yeah.
How long did it take you to write this book?
Oh, Hope. So, it takes me usually about a year to get a full manuscript done. I know people do it in months. It took me a year, but then I am a rewriter. I believe that is an author's superpower. That we can rewrite and polish and rethink and take input from beta readers and rethink. And so that's always that takes forever sometimes for me, like maybe another 6 months, another 9 months. But the one I'm writing now, I started it so long ago and I put it on the shelf, So I don't know if that time counts.
Well, let's talk about your writing and your writing journey. So this Reckonings is your third book, but you have a fourth book coming out in September. So tell me what made you want to become a writer? What drove you to open up that laptop or pull a notebook out and write your very first paragraph?
So I was going to be a writer from childhood. It says in my Evander Childs High School, Bronx, New York yearbook, the year I graduated, and under my picture, it says ambition, writer. So I was always going to be a writer. And I always loved telling stories and making up stories. Some of you who have met me before have heard this, but I even as an elementary school and middle school, I would make up for a book report. I would create a whole fake story. I'd even, publisher, the date, everything, the whole story, and submit them as my book report, and never got caught. I was just always making up stories. But then here I was flying all over the world. I was in an airplane every single week of every month. And these two women started talking to me, Kara and Alex, of Getting It Right, of my first novel. And they just insisted. So I started writing on airplanes in the Delta Lounge and in hotel rooms. And back then, people, plugs weren't available everywhere. Now you go to the airport and thank goodness. But back then, I had to go and sit on the floor, sit next to the place where they did the vacuuming cleaning and stick my, my plug in. But it was really because the two women started talking to me and they wanted their story told. And I just started writing. And I can remember being halfway through. I was at 35,000 words. And I thought, I don't have anything else. Like, I don't know what else happens. What do I do? Because I didn't have it all thought through. I wasn't someone who wrote an outline. And
so you're not a plotter.
Now I'm a balance. But back then they were just telling me what to write, and I would just have these conversations with them when I'm driving and wherever I'm going. And so I got midway and I thought, darn. And then I met this man on an airplane, and he told me that he was an FBI agent. And that one of the things he did is he helped the SEC track down insider traders, people who did insider trading, criminals. I was off and running. I got back and I was able to get to the end of the book.
So, as we both know, it's one thing to write a book. Because when I wrote the words "the end," I thought, oh, great. And I thought that was the hard part. It's not the hard part. The hard part is getting that manuscript ready to get into hopefully the reader's hands. So can you tell us a little bit and give us some advice for anyone out there who is an aspiring writer or maybe wanting to query their own book? What was your journey to publication?
So this is such a good question. The first one, I networked. Anybody who I could speak to, I said, do you know anybody? Do you know anybody? Do you know any agents? I just network. And fortunately, at a charity event, this woman said to me, well, I have an agent. And I said, oh, would you introduce me to her? She said, better than that, we'll have lunch. Now, who does that? And so Cheryl McKissick introduced me to Marie Brown, and we had lunch. And then she said, well, the book is intriguing. And I sent her the manuscript, and then she was my agent, and she found me a publisher, and that was awesome. Come to the next book. Rejection. And I said to my son, I'm just not going to do this anymore. I just can't take any more rejections. He said, Mom, it's a numbers game. It's a great book. Keep going. So I set a goal of 100 rejections. And number 79, number 79 said, yes, we love the book. This is great. If you're willing to make a few changes, can we talk? But then, so then Tangled Lies came out. Mm-hmm. Number 79 said yes. And then 1 week after Tangled Lies came out, my publisher contacted me and said, do you have another one? And I said, yes, I do. And then Reckonings came out. And then he contacted me after Reckonings came out and he said, do you have another book? And I said, it's not even finished. It's, he said, well, send me a blurb. And so on the basis of a paragraph, I got another contract.
That's incredible. That really is.
And hope I am 74 years old. Right. So my first book didn't come out till I was 69.
Really?
And my third book is going to come out when I'm 75.
Well, let's talk about that third book. Congratulations, first off. And that's a lot. That's 4 books in, if I'm doing my math right, 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's incredible. But I want to hear about this new book that is coming out. Could you tell us a synopsis? Give us a little sneak peek.
Yes. So I heard that it's very good to have a series. I don't have a series. It's very good to stick to one genre. Didn't stick to one genre. I mean, women's fiction, I do.
Yeah, several different genres and several.
But now I am writing historical fiction. And the reason that is even more surprising is because I hate research. I mean, I really hate research. I was speaking to a woman, we were visiting friends in Australia, and she was writing historical fiction. And she said, it took me 6 months to just find out this one fact. But then when I found it, it was like this treasure. And I'm thinking 6 months to find what, this is not me. This is not me. But I am writing a story. It takes place in 1924 and 1925, during the Roaring 20s, during the Harlem Renaissance. And it's a story of an immigrant woman based on real people and real events, but it's fiction, of an immigrant woman, a mixed race immigrant woman who something horrific happened. And she decided to move forward, and the consequences of her actions, her consequence of doing the right thing, her consequence of trying to protect her family is just awful. And so all of that, the terrible thing and the beginning of the consequence happens at the very beginning of the book. And then the rest of the book is really how she triumphs, what she does to find her way and keep her family and get her family back, because she loses her family. She's a very amazing woman. This is based on my grandmother's life.
Oh, really?
Yes. But it's fiction because I don't know everything that happened. So the pieces that I know are true, I wrote, and then I had to make everything else up based on something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I had to make my grandmother not be my grandmother anymore, because my grandmother can't have sex, but Grace can.
I totally understand that.
My grandmother, no.
And again, just to remind everyone, that comes out in
September, and it's called True Grace.
Well, I don't know if you can see, but we've got lots of comments. Everyone's saying congratulations. We have one person who says historical fiction is my favorite. I actually love historical fiction myself. So let's talk about when you're not writing. You have your own show. You interview authors. Can you tell us a little bit about that and where we can find it?
Yes. So it's called What Are You Reading? What Are You Writing? Mm-hmm. And it comes out every week. And it's on YouTube, and it's on my Facebook page, and it's on my website, Karen E Osborne. And I interview creatives. It's about, matter of fact, Hope is going to be on my show. And it's from 15 to 20 minutes interview. And we talk about book recommendations, and then we talk about their writing or their music. I interviewed a sax player who brought his keyboard and his sax with him, and and he played. And then we talked about his book, visual artists I've interviewed, but mostly I interview authors. And it's so fun. I've met such amazing people, and my to be read pile just keeps getting higher because every time I interview somebody, I've got to read that book. So it's very fun. What are you reading? What are you writing? Every Tuesday.
Every Tuesday. Okay, that's good to know. We do have a great comment. We have a Facebook user who said, my first book came out at the age of 69. My second will be at 70. Age is just a number. Keep stories coming. Congratulations.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. Good for you. Good for you.
And if you don't mind, could you remind the audience of all 4 books that you have and where they can find them?
Yes. So the first one is Getting It Right, about 2 young women, half sisters, who didn't know that they were half sisters. One is Black, one is white, and one's mixed race, and one is white. And they meet on the eve of the death of their father.
Ooh.
The father, and so it takes place 2 weeks at the end of March, and how they find each other and all that happens to them, including insider trading from that guy on the. And then the second one is a murder mystery, Tangled Lives. Vera is 70 years old, and she comes home to find her grown son, murdered. Danny is a hot mess at 25, and Danny sees Vera in a terrible car accident that when she's looking at it, Danny thinks something's not right here. And so she and Vera team up to solve the murder. And then we've just been talking about Reckonings, which came out this summer, and Roxy and Dallas, and you'll love Roxy. And then True Grace comes out in September. And I'm Karen E Osborne. There's another Karen Osborne who writes a lot. And I'm sure she's amazing. And so I'm Karen E Osborne. You can find me on YouTube. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram. And you can find me at my website, KarenEOsborne.com.
We have another comment. Someone says, I have read all of Karen's books. I highly recommend them. So
thank you.
And I have read one, and it will not be my last. I will tell you that right now. So let's see. We also have some other people, Inspiring Dreams Coming True. So Karen, I cannot thank you enough for taking over our Facebook page with your delightful post and keeping us guessing where you are. I loved the Broadway theme, and it worked so well with the book and with Bookish Road Trip.
Thank you so much. It was delightful being here. I hope that you will, everybody out there, that you will join us back at Bookish Road Trip, back on the page, because I have one more day.
One more day, you do, because you're not getting rid of us so easily. We get you one more day, and we have next month. I'm going to be here next month on February the 9th at 1 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to be joined by the Paper Lantern Writers. They wrote an anthology called Unlocked, and they're going to take us on a treasure hunt for that week of Author Take the Wheel. And so hopefully we will be getting more and more authors taking the wheel at the end of this year. But Karen, you have been wonderful. I cannot thank you enough for being here. And is there any last thing that you want to share with our group?
I just want to say that you should follow your dreams. Follow your dreams. And it's never too late. And it's never too young either. You're not too anything.
And I will say this, reaching out to other writers has been an incredible experience for me, because the thing that I have found, writers are the most generous people with their time, with their advice, and it really is a community that is unlike a lot I've experienced.
I would agree with that 100%. We support each other, help each other, boost each other, buy each other's books. I don't know that we make any money, but we are happily together.
We are happy. And thank you for offering advice and inspiration and hope for all of our aspiring writers out there as well. And thank you everyone for joining us. And until next time.
Bye, everybody.